Hi, this is the review of the orderIT trading system for December the 30th, 2020. We had 12 trades on that day. 4 were buys, 8 were short sells. First trade is CVS. That's CVS Health Corporation. It tripped at 11:40:06 a.m. at a price of 67.47. It was a short sell. It closed the day at 67.35, down 0.22%. It closed above its tripping price, so for short sells, that's not good. So let's see if there's a point where it came down. Let's see, 11:40, so roughly around this area. $67.75, so there, it's about lowest point is about $67. End of the day, it does not look like this is a good opportunity because it's showing a activity that's not strongly negative. The indicators, the basically moving sideways mostly. MACD, just dropped down a bit and then jumped up. That's pretty much the rest of the day. DI actually showing a good portion of the day was down negative. Just happened to be the end of the day it actually jumped up, which the other indicators were showing too. So this might have been a good day if it stayed down. Long rebounding and showing that positive recovery. I can't say this is impossible. I'm not to say it's a negative just because of the fact that indicators are not showing across the board. Like MACD is not showing, not really showing any negative movement strongly. You got a couple of points obviously where it was moving down, but in general, sideways, down a little bit, but mostly it was moving upwards. The eye was showing, moving negatively for a good portion of the day, so the eye is at one bad side and stuff like so. We have no consistency in the indicators, so I'm going to consider that a negative buy, a negative trade, I should say. Next trade is IDB. That's iShares Nasdaq 500 Technology ETF. That tripped 11:57:27 a.m. at 11:52:06. It was a short sell. It closed the day at 11:52:48, up 0.3%, so actually showing upwards. As you can see, it got caught roughly around its bottom point here. And then it came down to the bottom for the rest of the day. So that's a stop. That's not showing any kind of movement. Again, OBB, it's shot up. MACD shot up. DI is showing that there's a good portion of negative activity, but not heavy. It was showing negative, but not heavy. One of your bad showing moving sideways, so I can't consider it positive because not all indicators are showing any kind of negative direction. In fact, half of them are showing positive, one showing negative, one is indeterminate. So one of your bad is not showing any movement. Trade opportunity. Marathon Package Group. They took at 4:05 p.m. at a price of $12.48. It was a buy. Interestingly enough, it closed the day at 10.88, down 7.48%. You can see it's recovering early morning, so that's a good point. You can see this is what happened. It dropped at the end of the day. Very, very, very annoying. Honestly, to have a stock to do that. Let's see if there was any opportunity before that. Tripped around here. It was up. 1280, 1280. We're talking almost a good hour here where it was above its tripping price. So there was opportunity. I consider that a positive trade, but you can see the stock itself took a beating end of day. It just dropped end of day. Let's see if the indicators are showing that some kind of a strong. Yeah. OBD sideways, there's a little bit of a spike here in the afternoon, so the B bumped up a little bit and just dropped volume-wise. MACD just dropped. OBV, excuse me, DI just dropped. Yeah. At least the indicators are showing consistency on this one. It just, at the end of the day, it just dropped. And the question is, what happened to the stock at the end of the day to cause that? Anything you can check, obviously, the Yahoo stock page, you can see if there's anything that gives you an indication of potentially why that stock would drop at the end of the day. These are the kind of stocks that are very, 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 strange in general, because the aspect is, if you didn't catch them, you would have taken a big hit at the end of the day. Next trade is FEYE. FireEye Incorporated, took at 1223.10 at a price of 23.38 as a buy. It closed the day at 23.05. It was up 3.13%. So the release was up. You can see it dropped here at the end of the day, but we can see if there was any kind of activity here. Right around its peak. It never came back up. So this stock, not showing any early morning activity. Probably be bouncing back and forth, but it definitely looks to be positive. MACD, yeah. Looks like it was pretty much positive direction-wise after, even though late, closing showed a drop. In general, it shows a fairly good positive movement. The eye showing very strong early morning activity. It's a negative early afternoon, positive, mostly afternoon and negative chart. Bollinger Band showing somewhat of a steady increase. The indicator is showing somewhat of a positive direction, even though it never came up above its tripping point. I consider that a possible. Next trade is CNFR. That's Conifer Holdings Incorporated. The trick of 1235.29 at the price of 292. It was a buy. It closed the day at 379, up 43%, 43.02%. You can see it's dropping in the early morning, but that's probably just the aspect of people trying to get out after making their profits. Such a jump on this stuff. But it did not rise above its tripping price. And again, you can see there's a lot of sideways movements in the stocks today. 1235, let's see, roughly around this point, 401. It moved very strongly sideways, but not above its tripping price. OBD showing very positive. MACD showing very positive. DI showing very positive. Bollinger Band showing sideways, but it's bad again. Even though it's down this morning, I'm going to say that that's not to be able to maintain because of the fact that it just jumps so high. If anything, if it does go down today, I'm sure, it'll recover in the next couple of days because of its jump. Because, again, there's a lot of activity that occurred, and I can't see anything moving down heavily just because of that. I'll say it's a possible. It definitely is not a buy, but I say it's a possible. CSCO, Cisco Systems Incorporated, 40 at 3 p.m. Price 44.53. There was a short sell. Closed the day at 44.48, down 0.3%. You can see it's down in the morning too by 2%. So that's another positive trade opportunity. Check the SIP indicators. Giving the same kind of representation. Yes, OBD down. MACD down, morning, early afternoon, a little bit of movement upwards, but MACD is showing pretty much a downward trend. DI, very heavily down, much Bollinger Band down. That stock was moving down. Next trade is NRK. Merck and Company Incorporated. That tripped at 1:40 of 7 p.m. on the price of 80.90. It was a short sell. It closed the day at 80.59, down 1.02%. That's another positive trade. I'm going to check to see what the indicators are going to show. OBV down in the afternoon a bit, and you can see a bit of recovery. So it was recovering end of day or earlier afternoon. It was recovering in the afternoon time. MACD showing somewhat the same thing. Up in the morning, actually down a good portion. Well, actually, no, it was down pretty much in the afternoon, then that recovery at the end of the day. We're seeing BI down. You see a heavy negative in the early afternoon, too. So, while MACD was showing something sideways, BI was showing a very strong negative direction. And you can see that recovery. Actually, end of the day, it was coming down again. So, it was actually still coming down. And Bollinger Band showing the same thing. So that stock definitely was moving down. A little bit jumping back and forth, but the general direction was down. Next trade is LKQ Corporation. Tripped up to 5:05 p.m. Price of 34.89, a short sell. It closed at 35.37, and actually it was up 8%. Let's see, look here. Opportunity is not showing strong today. You can see rates at the point that it tripped, it recovered. So let's see. And you can see what's happened here. OBD showing that it was moving downwards and then it tripped right at this point at the bottom, and then this recovered. MACD showing roughly the same thing. It was moving down and then that recovery at the end of the day. DI down in that recovery. Bollinger Band down and recovered at the end of the day. That's a hard one, but if it's not because of that recovery that occurred at the end of the day, I can't consider that a positive opportunity or a possible opportunity. It's just the stock was just not moving. Next trade is KOS, Sales Energy Limited. It's at 2:10 p.m. The price of 2.42. It was a buy. It closed at 2.42. It was up 5.22%. But it has a 2.10. Roughly 2.43, 50, 2.43. Afternoon, you could see it was moving sideways price-wise, but there were multiple opportunities where it was above its tripping price. I consider that a positive trade. but obviously a very careful trade that we're about to bring the market get out to the positive. I think the indicators are showing any kind of movement. OBB showing afternoon it was moving upwards, pretty much sideways for the rest of the day. MACD showing bouncing a little bit, but sideways, I guess, to some extent. And then the morning, early afternoon, it jumped up and it started moving downwards a little bit. DI afternoon it was up. It was actually up quite a bit. The I-88 was showing very strongly positive, so in the afternoon it was showing retro index-wise a strong positive movement. And then it started coming down in the afternoon. You could see that negative was coming back up. Bollinger Band down, up, sideways. Not much in general. Overall stock was just moving sideways, but you know, the end result is that that stock could have been positively traded. So, next trade is HPE, Hewlett Packard Enterprises Company, equipped at 2:20 p.m. at a price of 11.68. It was a short sell. It closed at 11.68. It's actually up 0.09%. You can see it's happened. It's dropping. You can see here almost an hour of activity where it was below its tripping price, which would have made it a positive trade. But you can see in the day it takes a bit of a recovery. Indicators are showing downward activity. OBV definitely showing moving downwards at an afternoon. That recovery we see at the end of the day. MACD down in that recovery at the day. DI positive early morning, strongly actually, and then afternoon it was down strongly, and then it recovered. So it was down a good portion of the day, probably as much, a little bit more negative than positive. And Bollinger Band just shows you graphically that the stock is moving down for practically the whole day, and then a little bit of recovery at the end of the day. So in general, that stock was moving down, it's having to recover. Next trade is BAX, Baxter Trash Incorporated. It flipped at 3:25:55 p.m. at the price of 79.12. It was a short sell. It closed at 79.28. It was down 1%. Let's see, 325. Hard because that's close to the end of the day. Let's see. It just happened to recover a little bit right after the tripping price. You can see OPP showing negative. MACD down, up, down. MACD sideways in the afternoon for the most part, but there's points where it's really negative but recovery. Much negative is positive. Like the eye showing very strongly negative. Bollinger Band just basically showing that it dropped, and then the afternoon was sideways. Well, not a positive outcome. Because of obviously the trading period was close to the end of the day. Still, it's a possible trade. Next trade is GIS. That is General Mills Incorporated. It took at 3:51 p.m. and the price of 58.60. It's a short sell, closed at 58.56, so it's down below the shipping price. So that is positive. Let's check to see the indicator showing that that's moving down. Yeah, OBV down, activity pretty much down for a good portion of the day. Yeah, see this little spike here, moving positive in the afternoon. But for the most part, the rest of the day it was down. Well into bad. Technically sideways and the day moving down. So that's not the end of the day. So that's the end of that. We've had 6 out of 12 stocks. So obviously that's 50%. So that is not a great day, obviously. Not a terrible, terrible day. I'd say if I had like a 10%, positive trade, then I'd feel very uncomfortable. But it's only 50% is oh God, that's very questionable. It did actually have 3 stocks that were a good possible, so technically that would be 9 out of 12, which would have made a much better possibility. I don't include them in the percentages because of the fact that I only want to say that absolutely this is a representation of what you could have made money on, not what you maybe could have made money on, what you could have made money on. That's only 50%. And that's unfortunate for the day. We are at the end of the year, and there's a lot of activity occurring. While most companies don't have actually end of year financials that are in line with the year itself, the financial year is usually offset by a few months, so it's not like the end of the year, but we are probably coming to the aspect that we're going to order reporting activity, and you're going to see a lot of times during this period of time things are a little bit questionable, just because of the fact that a lot of people are not strong and comfortable with buying or selling stock. Even though we actually had a good amount of stock today that were shorted, even then we were not maintaining across the board in any fashion. So the end result is we're only 50%. I'd still consider that a decent day, not a perfect day, not a decent day. It does give me an opportunity to evaluate my evaluation algorithms based on what I'm seeing, to see if I can see something maybe stands out as something that should have been caught but was not. So that gives me the ability to maybe fine-tune things a little bit more concrete. So that's activity for myself to worry about. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.